As a preliminary matter, this is Greg Roy, Chair of the TCP Building Committee. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So, Brian.
Yes.
Dave Passios.
Here.
Heather Lemieux.
Here.
Dave Blatt.
Here. Tanner
Cole.
Here.
It looks like we do not have Mike. And who else?
Damon.
Damon. Yeah, okay. Damon wasn't sure. Okay. And then Ed?
Yes.
And Tom?
Right here.
Okay, good. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and this meeting of the TCP Building Committee is being conducted remotely. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread, and all town facilities are currently closed to the public. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 Information Center page, accessed through the town manager's webpage, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public presentation period at the end. For this meeting, the TCP Building Committee is convening via video conference as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to share, to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We'll now turn to the first order of the agenda. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call vote. Okay. Pulling my agenda up here. We have no mic, so I'm going to pass over the minutes, and I'm going to go right into the status update from the architect. So Tom and Ed, I'll give you folks the floor. I did forward on your documents that you sent. Not sure if everybody's had a chance to review those, but I'll yield the floor to you guys.
Tom, do you want to talk about the architectural documents, and I can fill afterwards? I can fill on the committee on the surveying work that was done last week.
Sure. May we have control of the screen, or can I just hit share?
Try hitting share.
Okay. Host disable participant screen sharing. So.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. I'll try again. Let's see what.
Greg, that could be an option under screen share when you press to
Okay.
enable participants.
I don't see, all it's giving me is the option to record my screen or to share my screen. Hmm. Boy, I don't see it.
Greg, if
Well,
you,
maybe I can pull the document up. Yeah.
yeah,
What,
yeah. So if you could pull up the
which one?
report one, not the spreadsheet, but
Okay. Task performed since June 1st.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
one? Okay. Yep.
Great.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So since last Monday, I just want to update what we have done so far. Ed is going to talk about the site survey, the civil work. So on Friday, we picked up some more drawings. John was kind enough to share some of the, essentially, we got the window and exterior door replacement projects, the mechanical system, phase 2 projects, and from the other projects that we had before, and looking at the Vertex report, we have and the report that Tavis Architects put together, we understand much better what the building is like, what some of the original program was like. And so after we went through those reports, there were some recommendations from the Vertex report, and that, so we have a few questions. Just want to see, since the reports were done, what's if there's any building upgrade or repair work. So if we could look down further onto the page, Greg, like if the repair and building. So yeah, thank you. So we just want to see if there's been, there was a recommendation into maintenance shop. I just want to see if any of these work has been done or they have been put on hold. Say the CMU walls in the maintenance shops and the chimney work, windows in the classrooms.
Does anybody have any visibility on that?
Yeah, that would be something we'd have to ask John Londa.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also don't
I don't think
have
any of that
to,
work's happened.
Oh, John, welcome to the meeting, John. Okay.
Thanks.
Good
There you
timing.
go.
Good timing there.
You're on the spot. This is Tom. Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So I went through some of the reports, and I'm just wondering if some of the work has been done or is something that we should carry over into the current project. So the first one was the maintenance shop. So there were some cracks in the CMU wall. I don't know if it was.
Yeah, nothing on that list, on that entire list has been completed.
Okay. So again, we just want to capture what has been done, and just so that we'll be alert that we'll be looking at these items. How about the mechanical systems upgrade project? Well, was that implemented or?
So in 2003, 2004, we replaced boiler system. We added a digital controls. We did repairs on air handlers, but pretty much what you've got is the original air handlers, original exhausts, just new controls.
Okay, but the interiors upgrade and the window work have not been done.
So interior on that, we added some new unit ventilators in the cafeteria in 2004. We added a couple other air handlers, but for the most part, it's radiators, and so we added controls and valves.
But as far as the finishes, I'm sorry, I jumped back to the previous bullet point about painting or replacing ceilings or things like that.
No, we've all got, for the most part, original ceilings, and the paint, you know, there's been some painting done, but it's not in great shape.
Okay, and the windows has not been replaced since the 1986 project.
So there was 1986 project did all the classroom windows with some pretty large double hung windows. In 2000, there was another round that took care of all the rest of the windows and including the gymnasium with some cowl wall.
Yep.
The only part that wasn't touched was the lobby windows. Those are original.
Okay. And there was also a comment about there was some glazing in the skylight. Was that repaired as well?
So there's been some glass replacement, but you know, so that's all the original skylights from 52.
Wow, great, thanks. And was the storage tank after the grant application, was the work done?
Yeah, so the 2,000 gallon oil tank was removed successfully.
Great, thanks. So Greg, would you mind to move to the next page? So the other thing that I think I'll just skip to the building code and then we can focus on the space needs assessment. So we want to do a building code analysis, high level analysis, and find out what level of renovations this project is going to be. May it be an addition or a full renovation. We want to see what kind of new code we will need to comply, because it depends on one of the three levels, and also to see what are the implications to connect if we were to have an addition. So what we will look at in this preliminary building code report, and we call it a desktop review because we haven't been to the building, so we are really looking at existing drawings. So we'll be looking at, again, based on the existing documents, and look at the applicable building codes and regulations. From the previous reports, we know what the building structure is like. We want to define the use classification and construction classification, egress, accessibility, and energy efficiency. So we want to set forth the parameters that we are designing to. Obviously, once we can get on site and verify the existing conditions, we will fine tune that. But that's a draft that we can prepare and have the committee to review and discuss as part of the pre-design work that we are working on right now. So the next thing that we are going to do is to pull in the information that we gathered, that Heather so nicely sent me the spreadsheet a few months ago, and which is also based on the Tappy Architects study. And we had some conversations back in the March meeting. So we essentially pull that information together and create a new spreadsheet, and we want to have that ready so that when we meet with individual folks, individual departments, and when we had the meeting on site back in March, that we were going to talk to representatives of different departments to validate and verify those space programs. So Greg, if you don't mind to pull up the next file, which is the spreadsheet that we put together. Oh, thank you. So the way that we set it up is we have a few columns of what we call existing, which is what was documented in the Tappy Architects report, and then we started a proposed section showing areas and staff numbers, and then we have comments on the right hand side. So 98% of these line items are from the original report, so we just put it in the format that we can use as we have further discussions on upcoming programs, and also so that we can identify and figure out how big the program or the project needs to be. At the same time, we also want to review as we can go on site, just double check where are some of these spaces located. So that's something that we can still do during this phase. And so on the right hand side where the comment section is, the black notes are from the original report. And in the original Excel spreadsheet that Heather sent me, there were some additional columns on the right hand side. So I kind of pulled them into this comment section. And then there were some additional spaces or questions that we have. And it is actually further down, it may be as page 2 or page 3, there was some text in blue. We had some discussions when we met back in March about different types of conference rooms and how big they need to be. So essentially, we have this Excel spreadsheet set up for further verifications and discussions, and we can then figure out how big the project ought to be and move forward as we started laying out the space.
So Tom, I don't mean to interrupt, but a quick question. If I look at the 3 wings of the building, you know, you walk in the front door, there's a wing to the left. Do we know roughly how many square feet there are for each of the 3 wings of the building?
We haven't done that, but we can get back to you pretty easily. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Actually, Greg, if you wouldn't mind to move down to the next, I don't know if it's the second or third page down, that we have some light blue text on the right hand side. Maybe it's further down. Maybe it's another page.
So
Yeah, maybe it's further.
This is second page.
Yeah, so like on this page, there are 2 items that the meeting, there was a discussion that the Parks Department may want to move into this facility. And we heard from another town that the Commonwealth has a new regulations that towns need to provide some sort of office for animal control. I don't know if you folks heard about it, but I just thought I'll just put it there as a space holder. And then the next page, I believe it might be the different conference.
Bear with me here. My computer is slow.
So
there we go.
This is the page. So when we met in March, we talked about different types of conference rooms. So we're starting to track these spaces. So there might be 3 or 4 different types of conference rooms. So it's now part of the program. So as we continue to discuss, then we'll fine tune this program. So that's where we're at right now with the space assessment piece.
Okay. Did you? Go ahead. Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So this is the space assess. That's what we have done over the last few days. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to the site survey, which looks like they have done a lot of work the last week.
Does anybody want to ask any questions relative to this part?
Yeah, Greg, real quick, Dave Passios.
Go ahead, Dave.
Actually, to John Wanda through you. John, is my recollection correct? The left-hand wing, which was first, second grade when I was in school anyway, there are 8 classrooms at, is it 5,000 per room or is it 3,000 per room?
So their classroom is roughly 1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet, okay.
Give or take, and there are 10 classrooms on that left wing.
Okay, so roughly 10,000 square feet to work with in that one wing. Thank you.
Yeah, so the next thing we'll do is to really look at the classrooms and just say, do a quick analysis of what the ratio of those spaces and to the overall building area together ratio, because it's a pretty effective double loaded corridor situation for that building.
Anybody else have any questions relative to that?
One thing, this is Brian Leighton. One thing I noticed was the state representative office. I know it has been Jen Benson in the past from Lunenburg, but now we're going to have representatives who are outside of Lunenburg too. And I know that we have 2 state representatives too there's another one for the B precinct. I didn't know how much discussion we want to have about maybe possibly a shared space for both representatives. Do we want to offer space for the state senator too to have, say, a meeting with citizens? Something to think about in the future, I guess, but I don't know if we want to talk about it now.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has had any dealings with those folks. Is there, maybe Heather, has there been any desire expressed for on the part of any of those folks in the past?
There has not been, but I think it's a good idea to have some kind of space in the event, you know, they did want to have, say, office hours with residents, even if it's making sure there's a conference room available or that type of space.
I guess I just didn't want to commit all of the space to one particular representative too, when we have really 3 representatives and senators representing us.
I got it. Yeah. That's a good point. Build in some flexibility there. Yeah.
Greg, I've got 2 other points when everybody
Go
else
ahead.
is.
Go ahead, Dave.
One being that I think we need to be careful with the open office spaces and make sure that confidential files are not being stored in open offices. I know for a fact that the Board of Health has files that are very confidential, and storing them in an open office I think is problematic. We've had problems in the Ritter in the past, so I just want that to be considered for all departments, depending on what the nature is of the files being stored. And the other, with the space for our representatives and senators, I think we could commit to one common space and maybe a storage closet with lock cubbies or something in it for each one of them. My recollection with Jen Benson was that she and her administrative assistant had office hours, but they basically set up at a desk and a table. I actually met with her a number of times in Ritter. And, you know, unless things change, there really isn't a need for a full-fledged office from my perspective. But I think it could be shared between all the representatives and the senator. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. All right. I mean, we can ask questions, but Ed, why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of the survey related activities?
Yes. So last week, our survey and subconsultant Meridian, they were out at the property. They were doing 2 types of survey, and they were doing the traditional land surveying, and they were also doing their 3D drone survey with the LiDAR. So they've completed the traditional land surveying work, and they completed the LiDAR work, but they do need to spend 1 more day in the field, locating manholes, popping the covers, seeing what the utilities look like in there. So that we expect them at least 1 more day out there to wrap up the field surveying work. The LiDAR, they're deciphering the data right now. They need to take it out of the equipment and get it into the cloud and work with it to create drawings. They also requested some utility information from the town, and we've been working with John and Heather about exactly what they're looking for, trying to find as-built drawings of the water and the sewer systems that service the property, and John was good enough to send us some of the utility provider information. So once we get the as-built and once some additional utility-related work gets done and more information is provided, they'll be able to finalize those documents. We're expecting that based on the survey work that was done last week, they'll have either draft survey plans ready by this Friday or next Monday, but they will have to be adjusted as the utility pieces are provided to them so they can adjust the survey based on as-built drawings and the work they do locating additional manholes and whatever information the utility providers like Unitel and the gas company, National Grid can provide. So it's moving along quite nicely at this point.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions relative to that? The only thing I would say on that, this is a little nit here maybe, but and I know the work's almost done, but it might be good to have notice on that work, just given that it's in. I know we're kind of shut down over there at schools and things, but if it's possible just to have the crew either, I don't know how we'd even do that, send an email saying we're going to be on site today or something, or these are the days, that might be handy. Just a thought.
I'm sorry to have to notify who?
Well, just to notify, I don't even know who we'd notify, to be quite honest with you, but I had someone ask me, do you know what's going on over there? I said, yeah, I think we have surveyors on site. So I don't know if we just send a notice to the, I don't know who would do that, Heather. It's just a thought. That's the only thing it's something that came to mind. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but.
Well, I can find out what the next day is. They'll be out there and let John and Heather know, and then they can pass it on to whoever would need to.
Just at least so if we know and we get asked, we can say, oh yeah, no, we know what's going on.
Yeah, no problem.
Not a big deal, but I get it. It happens on, I mean, I'm familiar with this kind of work, so I understand how it works. So. All right. So I guess my question then is, next steps moving forward, if you wanted to take a quick minute to kind of run us through what we can expect for, the next moving forward in the next period of time.
Yeah, so next time we will have an outline of the building code review. So at least we may not have all the answers, all the analysis, but at least we want to show you this. These are the items in the building code that's what we're looking for. A second thing that we like to do is to see, we like to somehow validate or verify some of the existing spaces. So I just want to see what is the best way to go through that process. We can come to tap and just go to the different buildings and just because we already have some floor plans, just want to make sure we understand where things are. And also if there are individuals of different departments that we're not really doing the detailed work, but we just want to get their sense how they feel about the different departments that's listed or different rooms that they are listed right now. Maybe that we can do this with the committee. Like today, it was high-level discussions of the Board of Health open offices. We need to get that type of details. Maybe not every single room, but for the whole program, we need to go over that at some point. So I wonder what is the best venue to do that.
How would you do it if we were not in COVID-19 protocols?
Well, we were going to sit down with the representative of each department. So I suppose we could still And we were going to meet with them in the library, and we might walk over and say, well, my office is over here, so we can mark up the plans.
Mhm.
So right now, as far as the existing floor plans, what we have is the original buildings, like all the big classrooms and the gymnasium and so forth. But if it has been, it sounds like it has subdivided further down, then we don't have that information. It also brings up another point. One of the services, not for the pre-design, but for the overall project, is for us to send our group to that has the scanner to scan the building, because at this point there are no students in the building. So that's something we'd like to discuss with you folks to see if you
Yeah,
want.
that was a question. I thought we left it. We were going to kind of look into that. I'm guessing the answer to that was no, we couldn't do that. Is that
Okay.
right? Well, that's a question. I didn't hear the answer to that. Heather, do you know about that, or?
Meeting with employees? Is that what the question is? Or?
Well, no, we moved on to the building scanning, sort of detailed building survey interior. Go ahead.
When I talked to the superintendent, we could work those details out for them to access the building, or be on a day that there's a very limited amount of people.
Okay, so that's something we could schedule now?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, so the current pre-design services does not include a scanning, so we need to make that update, or we can work out the details.
Okay.
And it would take 2 weeks for us to, once we say, okay, you're ready to go, it takes two weeks to set it up for us. And it would be one, at the most, 2 people in the building, because that person has, we may have shown a clip during the interview, and they have this big scanner that's why it's so effective too.
Yeah.
The only question is, are there a lot of furniture or equipment in those rooms? That would make it difficult. It's not an X-ray scanner, so.
That's a John question.
Yeah, there are some rooms that are more crowded than others. Most of them are empty though. Or very
Okay.
limited furniture.
Okay.
All right, well, how do we want to proceed on that, dude? Well, Tom, will you just coordinate with Heather on that, or how do we move
Greg,
that
could
along?
I interrupt for a second?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, our last meeting, I thought we already covered this 3 weeks ago. And I had asked the town manager once since that meeting how the planning to get access to the building was going. And I thought it was moving forward. I expected we'd have an initial report of an internal walkthrough for this evening. I'm disappointed that that's been held up for as long as it has, and I hope it moves forward quickly now. That's my comment.
So there can
Thanks, Dave.
be 2 types of walkthrough. One is to more from the operations space standpoint, how you're using the space. The other is really to document the facility. So as far as the first part, we can schedule something, as I'll be walking with somebody or different individuals and just identify what goes into, what is in the building right now. And then we will send a separate crew coming up to do that scanning to create the base drawing for further developments in the project.
Yeah, my point being that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that part of the a la carte items that we approved was to get into that building and be able to do that scan. I thought we talked extensively about that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, the exterior scanning was included, but the interior scanning was not in the a la carte.
I remember it being in question, Dave. I remember we needed to, the question was raised by Tom and Ed as to whether or not they could get, and maybe even Dave Blatt suggested that it actually might be a good time because we don't have any of the after school programs in the building, that perhaps we could get them in. I thought that it was on, I thought we were looking into it, and that was the crux of my question, is I hadn't heard whether or not that permission had been granted yet. But I mean, it sounds like it is. It sounds like we just maybe got our signals crossed or something. And
Okay, well, that's fine, but at this point, have we authorized whatever we need to authorize to
Oh.
take that further step beyond the a la cartes that we voted at the last meeting? That's my concern. If that holds us up to another meeting, I would be really upset.
The 3D scanning Tom's referring to was not in the scope and fee that was approved at the last meeting.
Okay, that's my point.
I think the discussion was that they would have access to a walkthrough to the systems. Yeah, and that was more of what was going to happen.
No, it's irrelevant as to what we talked about before until we go back and look at that tape. My question before we go out of this meeting is, what do we need to do? First of all, the walkthrough for the visual assessment, that's already approved, is what you've just said. If the next important step, and I think Dave Blatt was alluding to this, was that we really needed the structural analysis of the internal part of the building. And what do we have to do to get that to happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks? Do we need to approve something, or what needs to happen?
If I could make a suggestion, we've a la carte, so to speak, what's been going on now, and I'm not sure what the situation financially is with the town, but would it make sense to approve the total contract amount as originally submitted? Then we can do all the services that are in the scope of work without having to continue to a la carte it moving forward. It would seem just throwing it out there, it would seem to be more efficient from a workflow standpoint to have the full contract in place. It seems like things are opening up now with COVID, businesses are opening up. There's more access available now because of the summer and the kids aren't in school. But with the full contract approved, we can just blast forward with the project and not have to worry about doing it piecemeal. It's just my thought.
yeah, so I mean, so really and truly, this committee doesn't make that decision.
Mhm.
So we're directing the flow of the discussion and things, but in terms of the contract agent, that's through Heather, I guess. So correct me if I'm wrong, but
Could I ask, I'm assuming that the contract has been executed, otherwise these guys wouldn't be working on the project at all. So I've got to assume that the entire contract has been approved and executed. Is that right or not?
So I'll answer that question.
Okay.
It has not. It was a modified contract with the a la carte provisions that were approved by the committee last meeting.
Okay, so what are the steps to get to the point where, excuse me, the contract is approved in full? I know the money's already appropriated. What is your position on it, if I may, through the chair?
I would prefer to continue if there are certain things that the committee wants to get done in a certain period of time between now and August, that we review those items and be a la carte, and at that point, then we'll have a better financial picture for the town.
So it seems to me that the interior building information is a pretty important step. I think that, to be fair, 5 weeks ago when we were meeting, we had a pretty different outlook on on COVID at the time. We were in a little bit different space. Now it looks a little different maybe, but I'm still not sure it is. I mean, who knows? But I think that is a pretty important step. So, I mean, if this, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom and Ed, but it seems to me that in order for you to, come up, start doing planning and things, it's going to be difficult. I understand the tasks that you've done so far are sort of standalone to that, but it's going to come to a point where we're really going to need to have a base plan of the building before we can really start going and throwing together, not throwing together, but putting together some concepts. Seems to me that that's pretty important. So perhaps if we need a vote or whatever, perhaps we look to proceed with that step. I don't know what we're talking about with cost, but perhaps we look to add that level into what's already been authorized.
And there's other work that can be done in addition to the work inside the building. There's still outside of building work, such as the traffic engineering, the traffic study works all outside, all the environmental work, the phase 1 work to look at the site for environmental issues is all outside work. So there's other pieces of the scope that if the committee desires could continue moving forward. But you're right, the interior work, it's important for the whole design team to get inside of the building, the architects, the structural, the MEP engineers, the crew that's going to do the 3D scanning, because that's going to be critical to get all those folks in there to continue moving forward.
So I don't know, is that a possibility, Heather, or how? I don't want to speak out of turn, but.
Yeah, if we could get a list and cost for each of those items.
Yeah, so Ed and I can work on a list of the scanning, and also right now we did not include the MEP or the detailed structural investigation, but we can pull that together. Ed, I don't want to speak
If we're going in the building, we should probably involve hazmat too, because then we're going to do some additional sampling and testing. If we're going to access the building, my opinion, we should have all those design disciplines that need to go into the building to get in there. Because a lot of our work is interlaced with each other in what we do.
Yep, that makes sense to me.
If we're going to get an integrated analysis of this building, all of this stuff needs to be done. And if we're going to sit here and piecemeal it every week or every 2 weeks, it's going to stretch this thing out for months. Whereas the design group could get in there and do all these projects in a very short period of time, get it done and over with, and not potentially add cost to this overall project. For weeks we've been in different meetings talking about the town's financial situation, and the funding of this project has come up a number of times. And the comment has been, well, this money's already appropriated, so it doesn't affect the budget presently, so on and so forth. Then why are we nickel and diming this thing unless we're going to pull the plug on the project? That's how I feel about it. We either move forward full bore, or we pull the plug on the project. Piecemealing it like this does not accomplish the goal. Again, my personal opinion.
Well, I agree, Dave. Another thought I was thinking was spreading it out, trying to get at least down all the ideas in a timeline that's maybe a little more spread out, maybe till next May, whatever we want, but try to plan it out a little bit and see where everything falls rather than slowly piecemealing it in.
Right. And the thing is that every time we push something off, closes in on our window of opportunity on the other end to sell this project. We need to have the project in the can as early as possible and then sell it or put it to bed. And we need time to do that. I don't want to be pushed up against a town meeting as obviously it's not going to be November. It's probably going to be next November before we do everything we've said we're going to do before we take it to town meeting. But I don't want to keep putting things off and get pushed up against the next year's Springtown meeting and have a period of few short weeks to sell the project. We have an opportunity to get this part of it done now, and then have an extended period of time to fine tune it and sell the project to the citizens. Again, my personal feeling.
Okay. Well,
With that, I'd make a motion that we authorize the architects to move forward with the complete contract as it was presented, and ask the town manager to finalize the contract as presented.
okay.
I'll second that. I'll second that motion.
All right, is there any discussion? I'm going to tell you, I'm a little uncomfortable with the motion because I don't know if it's our place to do that, Dave.
It is. Our charge is to bring a proposal to town meeting. And
Yeah, I
we
know,
can't
but-
do it if we don't move the studies and the data gathering and so on and so forth. And town meeting authorized the dollar amount for that purpose. And we are the ones responsible for bringing in that product.
Yep. I just want to be careful that we don't jump into the shoes of the procurement manager.
I don't believe we are. I think we're exercising our right as the design committee and or building committee for the future, and moving our project forward that has been funded.
Okay, anybody else?
Dave, any particular comments or?
I agree. I'm kind of frustrated a little bit because I'm even looking at this feasibility study and it doesn't look like anybody but town offices in the school has been talked to. I thought one of the things we were going to do was talk to the folks like the senior center, the teen center, other folks that could use some space in this building. I'm not a bit, that's the big thing I'm seeing here. So I feel like we're kind of just piddling around, and everybody's time is valuable on this committee. And I like to just push forward and have more time in the end to really fine tune it than to be worrying about at the end rushing to get something done.
Okay. All right. You want to repeat that motion, Dave?
My motion was to have the committee vote to move forward with the contract as presented by the architect and design company, and ask the town manager to formally finalize that contract so we can move forward. Does that
Okay.
sound like what I said earlier?
Yeah, it did. It did. I just wanted to make sure. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, and I'll do a roll call. No particular order. Brian,
Yes.
Dave Blatt,
Yes.
Dave Passios,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Heather is gone, so she might be a little upset with me. I'm sorry.
I think she's there.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not showing on my list. Sorry, Heather.
I'm not upset. I'm trying to be cautious and certain things, and if that's the committee's recommendation to move forward with all the tasks, then
Well, it just seems like we're getting into territory. I mean, I guess, as I thought through it, listening to Dave's talk here, we're getting into territory we're getting into inefficient territory. We're getting into the the situation where we could be bringing in inefficiencies. And I do understand Dave Passio's point that it's kind of like we need to fish or cut bait here. You know, I think I agree with that. And so, you know, if it doesn't, it really doesn't do us any good to not have all the, I mean, we've identified all the whole contract is needed to be done before we go hit the streets with the project. So I think all the points that were raised are valid. So I guess we just have to move forward and, I mean, you know, I guess Heather, you know, we'll have to talk through, you know, you know, you're the one that has to sign on the dotted line, so to speak. So we'll have to, you know, we'll have to communicate on it. But
We already have, like I said, we already have a contract. It was just the a la carte was
Yep.
based on those tasks. So it's modification of that existing contract. So it's just the scope of work, and the rest of the costs associated with the project will change.
So it'll just
okay,
to tweaked a little bit to now include the whole contract,
add back in
a
everything.
certain
Right?
amount. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have to do a hard stop at probably like 7:20 so I want to move on if we can. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to previous discussion?
I just, like I say, my emphasis is that everything seems to be on town office and school. I'd like to make sure that we're talking to other entities in the town as well. You know, this is a large building, and there's a lot of room for lots of things in there to make this thing a wonderful space. I don't want to limit our scope to just town offices and school right now.
Okay.
Right.
So
And you
let's,
know, if my feeling is that if we continue too long down this path, then there's going to be no room left for anybody, you know, no room for anybody else.
yeah,
You know, they'll just expand because they have the room.
I think we need to we'll put that on as an agenda. Let's put that on as a specific agenda item.
Okay.
So we can discuss and formulate a plan on how we want to do that, because I think that you know, I'm not even sure we might want, I mean, we obviously need the architects there, but, you know, it's probably something we need to reach out to you know, our committee needs to reach out and invite them into the discussion. So let's talk about how we want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Fine.
We're flexible too, so if we want to have a meeting with the senior center or the teen center, that's not the typical committee time. We are flexible to meet with them on Zoom, or some of the towns are more flexible. I mean, we could have a meeting on site with our face mask on and all that. So just let us know whatever works for you folks, and we too want to move the project forward. So the more interaction that we have, the faster we can move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
One quick question on the spreadsheet with the needs analysis. When I printed out, I don't see a total square footage for that program as proposed. Does somebody have a number? Because it didn't come out on my sheet for some reason.
It's on the last page, so it's like
19 something.
yeah, it's like 19,550.
Okay, that looked like such a small number. I didn't think it was right.
That's my feeling, and that's including with what looks like a lot of with several redundant conference rooms. I can't see, you know, 5 different offices needing conference rooms at the same time.
Right, but what's the 29,325 just above that?
So I believe again, this was taken, we haven't really put too much intelligence in it yet. So the 19.5 is the net square footage. So there was an addition to add circulation like corridor space to bump it to 29, but we like to take another look and also if we can talk to the individuals using those current spaces, and we can fine tune that number or maybe expand.
Okay,
and sometimes the ratio is different. So that 1.5 might turn into depending on the space used.
Yeah, there are a number of large spaces in that building, obviously, but we're looking at, what is it, 155,000 square feet for the total building? 150 to 155?
Well, even if you look at it, just count the classrooms. If we said each classroom's 1,000 square feet, so there was what, 10, if I look at it as 10, 6, and I think 10, so that's 26 classrooms. You got 26,000 square feet, right, in classrooms alone.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, definitely. And that Dave, does that include the center corridor where PAC is now? Yes, it
Yes,
did.
yeah, that's like six,
okay.
six offices there. I mean, six
Right.
classrooms there,
Yep.
if I look at it that
Okay.
way.
I
Thanks.
believe the total building is about 55,000.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, so many numbers bouncing around in my head. That one's just, the one I came up with, the 55 was close, but sorry about the extra 100,000.
Well, we can definitely add another 45,000 square feet.
All right.
The wing that was going to be demolished too.
You mean the library?
If you go down the corridor to the left, that wing.
The addition off of the back wing, Heather? Yeah, yep. I mean, when we
Okay.
took our walkthrough on that, I had never seen that corner of the building ever. And it seems so disconnected from the rest of the building, but we'll let the architects take a look at that.
Okay. So the other significant thing we wanted to discuss tonight was a report for town meeting. Town meeting is this Saturday. So I think, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been discussions about just providing a report instead of an update. Is that, do I have
Yes.
that right?
So
Okay.
we always have a pre-town meeting with the moderator prior to town meeting, and it was asked if instead of doing a verbal report at the meeting, if a written report could be provided instead, that we could give as a handout as people check in.
So that's fine. It certainly won't be a document that will be prepared and reviewed by this committee. How do we do that?
Well, I
Or
mean,
does
at
that
this
matter?
point, Mr. Chair, at this point, I was going to say, all we can really say is that we've, hired the architect firm.
Yeah.
There's been
Yeah, but
delays.
It's basically be a history lesson, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's all, right now, there's delays based on town offices being closed. And now that things are opening, we look to push forward and, move ahead, as they say, right?
Yep.
Stay tuned and actually show up to fall meeting. We could tell the folks.
Heather,
Oh.
is there anybody generating a handout that, we could add a paragraph to rather than a whole sheet of paper? That maybe they have a paragraph that they want to say something and that's all they need also?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, I could do a quick paragraph or two write up and run it by the town manager, I guess. If the board wants to, if the committee wants to sort of, I guess, authorize that.
Hey,
And again,
I will gladly nominate you, Greg.
And it's just going to be, a lot of what you just said. It's going to be the, at Springtown meeting, the town authorized this in whenever it was, September, October, the committee was formed. We've been working to, we'll just give a history lesson of how things, just to kind of, so people understand that it's moving.
Yes.
And,
I'll
yeah.
that.
and then we'll just state we hope to have more information, whatever, we'll say however, but it'll just be basically an informational packet, so.
Dave Blatt, if you want to make that nomination a motion, I second it.
Wait, well, let me ask before I do, when do you need this by, Heather?
Could you have it to me by Thursday?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. That way we can print them out and bring them over to the
Okay.
school in advance.
Okay, all right, I'll try to get something typed up, and at least you can review it, so I'm not out there on my own. Okay, go ahead, I'll accept the motion.
All right, cool. Do you need us to
Are we-
vote?
Are we formally going to vote on it?
I just want to make sure the committee's okay with me prepare so yeah, make a motion that committee authorizes me to prepare the report, outlining where, sort of where we've been for town meeting or something like that.
Yeah, a history lesson, basically.
History lesson, yeah.
That's fine.
Are you making the motion?
Oh, yeah, motion. That's the
Second.
motion.
Dave Passio,
Okay.
second.
Any further discussion? All in
No.
favor, I'll roll call here. Brian,
Yes.
Dave Blatt,
Yep,
Dave Passios.
Yes.
All right.
Tanner.
And Tanner's gone, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's gone.
Okay.
I think Tanner had a planning board meeting, so he's probably,
Oh, okay.
and I vote aye. I vote yes.
Okay.
So, all right, I'll get that going and over to Heather for Thursday. All right. Anybody have any new business?
I think we covered it.
Okay. When should we meet again?
I think that's up to the architects to tell us, basically after all the things that taken care of, and they can come back with starting to do a better needs assessment and what we got and everything like that.
Will
You
we
wanna-
be, I'm sorry.
Well, do we want to pencil something in now, or what do you want to do? I'd rather put something on the calendar, I guess, if we can.
If I could ask a question, because this may help with the decision. Heather, how quickly would we be able to get the revised contract? And I can have it signed on my end and get it back to you. That'll authorize our staff to be able to get into the building and keep pushing forward.
Realistically, probably next week, because with town meeting this week, I wouldn't be able to get it done with everything else.
My thought is maybe the next meeting after we've had a chance to get the staff into the building and get some preliminary feedback, but that's just my initial thought.
So it sounds like we're probably at least a month. Should we put one on the calendar for a month out?
Yeah, that's fine. Calendar's flexible. Nobody's letting me travel anymore, so yeah.
I'm going to stop this share real quick. Just pulling up a calendar here. Sorry. So a week or 4 weeks out would be 1, 2, 3. Well, that'd be the 6th of July, the first full week in July. I don't know if that's any good for anybody, but
Yeah, let's get away from the 4th of July weekend.
so we could do the next weekend. We could do the 13th through the 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in there.
Like I say, that's fine. As long, I'm sure 2 weeks before that we'll have notice as to whether they were, everything's going to be ready or not, right?
Yeah, that's what I figured. But at least if we put it on the calendar, then we can. So,
Just so you're aware, I think I'm committed to a meeting at 6:30 on the 13th.
okay.
I could
Heather, was
potentially
that
have
the
a school.
date? Was that the date we picked for parks? Were you still on with us? Or
I think it was.
yeah,
What'd you say, Brian?
I could potentially have a school committee meeting on the 15th,
Okay.
depending on if we meet in the summer.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I can't remember the other meeting schedule. What about Tuesdays?
Tuesday's just board of
Select
selectmen.
board. Yeah.
Yeah. But Heather, Heather, do you need to be with us that next meeting? I know you would like to have you, but it's more of your needs.
I try to make all these meetings.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, what about the 18th, Thursday?
Right now it's open for me.
16?
18th.
Six-
So, oh, I'm
16th.
sorry. I'm sorry, the 16th. I'm looking at the wrong month. 16th of July, Thursday, the 16th.
That should work for me.
Why don't we shoot for that? Thursday, 7/16 at 6. Okay. All right. What else we got? I think that's all. Are there any, I don't see any members of the public, but is there any public discussion from any of the members of the committee?
Hey, we consider John member of the public, you know?
That's true.
He is
True.
he is a high-paying tax dollar in the taxpayer in this
true.
town, you know?
You're right. So I guess I'll say, is there any public comment from any members of the public? The public? No. Okay. Any public comments from any of the committee members?
All set.
Okay. All right, everybody. I think we are good to go, and we'll see
Motion to
everybody.
adjourn?
Oh, second.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Yo, yes, aye. Yeah.
Aye.
Roll,
Aye.
gotta do a roll call.
We'll do a roll
come
call.
on.
Roll call to
Brian?
do it legally.
Brian?
Yeah.
Dave Blatt?
Yep.
Dave Passios?
Yep.
And yes for me.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
folks.
Thank you.
All right, good night, bros.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good
Take
night,
care.
Grace.